Talks become things. So the name came from
A talk?
a talk, yeah, basically.
It became a thing.
And it became a thing, basically, exactly that. So, you know, if thoughts become things, then obviously talks are a massive part of manifesting, the manifesting process. And, you know, it's proven in science that, you know, words shape our reality around us and carry an energy to them as well. So, in fact, actually, my friend Adam texted me tonight, actually, and he said he wanted to tell me that abracadabra is actually Hebrew for "it is created as I spoke." So I think that's an example that the ancestors knew already then the power of words, and that, you know, words have magic to them as well, which is why obviously they call it spelling, you know, because we cast a spell with magic and stuff. So yeah, I think you know, we're here to obviously you know, share our story. Hopefully you find it informative, hopefully you find it a little bit inspiring, and yeah, I mean, so it went back to I suppose an idea, really, wasn't it? It was a thought that, you know, that you had, Jode.
And also, before this journey started, I was going through my hardest point in my life, and through that struggle, I made a decision that would change everything. Yeah. And I was literally crying myself to sleep. And I sat bolt upright in bed at 3 a.m, and I was like, I'm going to email Tristan to Cunha because I can only work with artists I'm passionate about as human beings, but also about their talents. And
we'd met only like a few times before that, hadn't we, as well? So we weren't like sort of best buddies like we are now.
No. That's right.
Which is lovely to see the friendship come out of it as well. But we'd met in Tisno at Love International, and we'd been to a couple of raves together.
Yeah.
And then from there.
And so I sat bolt upright in bed, and I wrote this email to Tristan at 3 a.m, and I got a response the next day.
Yeah.
And Tris was like, "Wow, your email really spoke to me, and I've been looking for an agent, someone to work with, but no one's really making me fizz. So it's kind of like, I think we should let's explore this further." And so the beautiful thing about this story, I think, is that Tristan believed in me when I was broken. And that gave me something to strive for. It gave me a purpose. And that was part of my 7-year healing journey that I went on. And throughout that journey, I got stronger and stronger, as I can explain as the story goes on now. But yeah, I just knew for me that it had to be Tristan.
Yeah.
You know, at the time, Tristan was a bit of an unsung hero. He's always been as incredibly talented as he is now to this day, but it just wasn't his moment at that time, I think. So for me, it was just this incredible, I don't want to say the word challenge, but it was something for me to really get my teeth into, you know. And so at that point, I started looking after your bookings, right?
That's right, yeah, exactly.
And yeah, and then what happened was, Tristan, after a few months, was like, "Well, I really want you to look after Dungeon Meat," which is Tristan and Brother, right?
Yeah, because we didn't actually we were with a couple of agents, and they didn't really do much for us, and so we just were like doing it ourselves at the time. And then I had Freakenstein and TDC with you, and it just made sense to do my other alias, but obviously I was doing that with a partner, so it was just up to whether he wanted to do it as well. So it very much sort of turned out that you ended up looking after us and doing a fantastic job, which you did as well, you know, really proving yourself. Because initially it was like, let me just show you what I can do. Let's not talk about anything other than that. And it was more of a managerial sort of thing that you were approaching me about, wasn't it, at the time?
Yeah, well, I'd kind of been an artist manager before I was an agent, so I had my artist manager hat on, and then I kind of morphed into agent extraordinaire.
Yeah. and one thing you should know about Jody is she's an incredible saleswoman as well. She is very, very good at that, and you know, those skills were very transferable to to starting the agency, and it's you know, it's been great to see you do your work in that sense. You know what I mean? So yeah, that was great. And then so it started out really with just me and my 3 A-listers. It was just like
well,
it's a bit narcissistic in a way, isn't it? You know what I mean? Like, I'm just going to start an agency just for me. You know? But at the time,
Freaky came along later, actually.
It was
a little bit later.
it was a little bit later, wasn't it? But not much. But so. Taking you back to the time when, to fill the picture in with you a bit, was like I was at another agency and I was a little bit sort of like kind of lost and stuff, and you know, I was kind of seeing other artists, for example, like Craig Richards, Presumer, Zip, these kind of artists. They all had like just a really small agency or just one person that looking after them. It wasn't about being at a big agency, and these were artists that I really admired and were doing stuff creatively and moving between these different sort of scenes and crews and parties and stuff, and just being able to do whatever they wanted and coming out smelling of roses. So I was really looking at that and thinking like, okay, it's not just about being on a huge agency these days. It really isn't, you know, because I was an artist on a big agency, but a little fish, you know?
Like small fish and big
small
pond.
Fish, big pond, exactly that, Jode, yeah, totally. So starting the agency was really, all a part of that process really was actually, you know, at the time I already had my own record labels, I was releasing my own music, you know, I was very much a sort of one-stop shop in that respect, you know. Shout out to Juno over there as well for supporting us as well in the early days. And yeah, we, you know, so we started off this journey together, which was, which has obviously brought us here now to Soho House, which is obviously amazing to think that, you know, what we've sort of achieved over the years without anything really. We've had no investment. We've had no money or sort of real like assistance or anything. We figured it out ourselves, haven't we?
We did, and we started something from nothing really. But what we did was it was like this massive win-win.
Yeah.
And everything we do, we always want it to be a win-win for artist and promoter, right? So I think especially the industry as it is today, you know, it's really important to really care about the promoter also being able to make money from their own party, right? So our strapline is "Who cares wins," and that is not just a strapline. That is, it's something we apply to everything we do. It's in our DNA, you know. So it's about working with integrity and some kind of understanding from both sides, and just always trying to make it a win-win. And I think me and Tristan was the biggest win-win because what we did was we lifted each other up at a time when we both really needed it, you know. And to me, that's the most beautiful part of this story, really. And then if we skip forward a little bit then to when when I started looking after Dungeon Meat, there was this really lovely moment, and I was still quite broken at the time. And brother Sammy, Dungeon Meat were playing at Shelter for ADE, and it was mid-set, and brother, he calls me over to the booth like this, and so I went over and I leant over, and he said, and Sammy, if you're watching this, don't worry, I'm not going to do the voice. It's fine. But I
like the voice.
Do the voice. But no, he kind of leant over, and in my ear he just went, Jody. I was like, yeah. He went, will you be my agent? Like, will you be my girlfriend? You know, like. And then he was like, you are the agent I've been looking for. And he was like, I'm never leaving, so you better take it seriously. And then he went, I waited till halfway through the party to tell you, which I thought was really sweet. But what it did was it was almost like I felt fragments of myself attaching back to me, like coming back to me, like I wasn't so lost anymore. Like I thought, well, I must be doing something right if this prolific producer, incredible artist wants me to represent them. And I started to heal, you know. And
I was really proud as well, because obviously I put all my faith in you, and we'd started this thing together, and then now other people were starting to see it now, and that was like, you were making me look good then. Do you know what I mean? You were making me look good, so that was like, you know, really cool for me, because obviously Sammy's like one of my nearest and dearest friends, you know, so to have one of my nearest and dearest tribal council, you know, feeling the energy and the, you know, what we were creating and how good it is, and he's got an amazing mind as well. So he's also part of the special force as well. I see him as much as on
part of the special
tribal
force,
council.
One of my best friends now.
Yeah,
it's wonderful.
exactly.
Slowly, I started to have this family built around me where I was so lost before. And then suddenly I had this family of incredible people around me, and the family was growing, and I think that leads us on nicely to talking about how the roster came about.
So I mean, I was just like Jody, really, was seeing people that I really believed in and thought were incredible world-class talent, like hands down, you know, and people that really impressed me. And you know, I've been around a lot. I'm 46 years old, so I've been around the block. I'm not saying that I'm old, but I'm saying I've seen a lot, and I've been there, and I've lived quite a few decades now and seen trends come and go. So I've got a good eye and a good ear, I'd say, and real recognise real, right? You know what I mean? So I can spot talent when I see it, and you know, there was a nice, you know, sort of opportunity for me to create a sort of a dream team, really, you know, and that's what we've been in the process of. I mean, a prime example of that would be obviously Georgia, who's sitting in the audience here now, who's one of our secret, well, not so secret weapons, but she's an absolute weapon in the nicest possible way. You know, and so I met her at Houghton Festival, just like we met somebody else as well, and we were just chatting on the dance floor. I think we were talking Scottish to each other, weren't we? And we were just having a right laugh down in the terminus, and I just kind of got this really overwhelming sort of feeling that this girl's a G. Obviously, her name is Georgia, so it begins with a G, and I could just tell. And so I had the opportunity to get booked for a gig in London shortly after, and I was like, well, I'll play, but you have to book Georgia as well to play with me, because I wanted to hear what she, because I had my eye on her. I was like, we wanted to increase the feminine energy on the roster because it was a bit of a sausage factory at the time. It was like obviously my three aliases, Garrett and Ron Obvious. And then, you know, sort of we wanted to bring some girls on the team.
Not only that though, it's nothing. Georgia is a girl. She's an incredible girl, but it's about her talent.
Yeah,
like,
exactly,
right, you know.
It 100% is that.
You've just had the added benefit of being an incredible female as well.
And it was a real case of like when I played with her, it was like we knew, now we know, you know, and it was great. So it's all grown really organically like that, hasn't it? And we've been like, I mean, Georgia has been in the game probably as long as me, really. She's earned her stripes, hasn't she? You know what I mean? And she deserves all the sort of praise that she's getting now and spotlight that she's been receiving lately, which is great. But we've also been focusing on a lot of young up and coming talent as well, which is really important. We're like a bit like a football team, really. You know, get them young, train them up. You know, and it's just that special force, isn't it? When you see that special force inside somebody and you can read them and see their energy. It's all about how they hold themselves, the music they play. It's a lot of things that come together that give people that special force, and that's kind of what we look for, isn't it, in the agency?
Absolutely.
Or, you know, I mean, we're not even like, I mean, I'm saying agency again as well, and
we're a collective.
I really wanted to change that because we're so much more than an agency, and I want people to realise that, you know, we're a creative collective. I mean, we're a force to be reckoned with, really. When we put all our things together that we do, like, you know, I'm just creating a magazine at the moment. We're going to have a radio show this summer, you know what I mean, on Open Lab Radio in Ibiza. You know, we've got like all different kinds of mediums, like, you know, everything. We're using it all, everything we can to communicate with people. Even here now, we're talking to you. You know, we're presenting things, we're doing parties. You know, we're creating records. We're starting a record label soon, Special Force Records, which is going to be amazing. Get to have all our amazing artists releasing their, you know, fresh cuts on there. You know, so straight away, that's a success straight away. I know it is because all our artists are amazing.
Yeah, 100%. I just want to go back to something about Georgia, and it's just this one thing that when we brought Georgia onto the agency, I hadn't even heard her play, right? I just trust Tristan's judgment so much, and Tristan's just like, trust me, like, just trust me. And so I went to meet Georgia and just immediately loved her straight away. And I just said to Tris, yeah, let's do it, let's bring her on. And then the first time I heard her play was in Fabric Room 1, and I went, and like, she just exceeded all of my expectations, and I was just like, amazing, you know, incredible. But it's testament to the kind of connection, I think, that we have in that way of just like the real trust. There's never been a decision actually yet that we've disagreed on, which is lovely as well. So yeah.
Well, we always have to. It has to be win-win, isn't it? It has to. I mean, at the end of the day, you're looking after the artist. You're the mother of the house. Do you know what I mean? So you have to babysit everybody and look after them. You know, so it's as much as it's up to me, it's kind of more up to you, really. because it's you that has to really connect.
I remember that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, you know, I'm not the one having to deal with the phone calls at 12 o'clock at night. Do you know what I mean? So
that's true.
You know what I mean? So, but also, I mean, we're talking about the roster. I also really want to give a shout out to the team as well. The four pillars
100%.
of Special Force. We've got Joe, who does our logistics, who's an absolute powerhouse.
Joanne Young, I'm telling you now, hands down. I'm sorry, Joe. I know you hate this. You're going to be cringing at the back somewhere, but incredible. Like our artists, because Joe is a tour manager and her husband Jamie, Backroom Productions, the best in the business. Also, my salt of the earth friends, like just incredible, and have supported me in everything that I've done, which I can't thank you enough for. And to have Joe on board doing the logistics for our artists. I mean, if you go to America and do a tour, Joe will tell you what the weather's like that day and that, you know, so you know what to wear. Like that kind of level with detail. She's incredible. So big up Joe.
Big up Joe, and then you know we've also got Mattia as well, who came to us, like a little sort of angel, didn't he? Sort of came out and and brought us Azad and AM Project with him as well, who are incredible young talents as well. So and he's just been that young. Energy that we needed as well, to have there. And he's been so enthusiastic and great. And then obviously we got Harriet as well, who's come on board recently as well. Again, she came to us, it was like we'd kind of met before, but then she just kind of approached us and said, I love what you're doing. And so it's very much this kind of magnetic force, isn't it, that's happening really at the moment with Special Force. And that's kind of quite sort of gaining a lot of sort of momentum, isn't it, really, with what we're doing and how things are coming about and how things are popping up and
it just makes you feel like the universe is working with you on this. We're in alignment here, and I love that. And I think it's a good time to say about how the name came about as well, actually.
Of course it is.
So
what's happened to the TV here? What's going on here? Like, hold on a second. Right, well, you give that, and I'll get a little thing going on here. Hold on a second.
Talk amongst yourselves. Refreshments, orange made, mini milk, funny feet. So it was funny because when we were talking about, basically what happened was Tris was with this big agency, and then we were like, what if we just created an agency ourselves? And it was like the dream agency if you were to build it. And so Tristan was like, well, if I were to have my dream agency, it would have all these different elements to it. And then we were like, well, what would we call it? And I said, I'd love it to be something to do with my father. Bear with us a second.
Sorry, don't worry.
I wanted it to be something to do with my father, like a mark of respect for my dad, who's the most incredible man. Pat Patterson, shout out to you.
Shout out to PP in the house.
Incredible, inspiring. Like at the hard times in my life, I'm like, I'm my father's daughter. I can do anything, and he's given me that strength. And my dad was very high up, actually, in the Special Forces. He was in the SAS, and just the most amazing man.
There he is. There's Pat. Give it up for Pat.
Looking like an
Look at that.
G.
Listen, I tell you what, you wouldn't mess with Jody if he was like that. Sort of like, you bring her home at 10 o'clock or else, right? You know what I mean? Like,
I don't know if you've seen the film Blood Diamond with Leonardo DiCaprio, but that's my dad reclaiming the diamond mines from the rebels in Sierra Leone, and that actually has inspired the film Blood Diamond. So that's what that picture is.
Yeah.
And then
the next one is obviously where
he actually went to prison about 4 years ago, I think it was. It was on the front page of the Sun. I went and tried to buy every single copy I could find. But it was crazy because my dad got on a helicopter when he was in the Falklands War, and they're in the middle of the war zone, and the helicopter was full. Someone had to get off. So my dad was like, I'll get off, I'll make my way back to base, I see you all there. The helicopter took off and it crashed into the sea and they all died. Everyone on board died.
Crazy.
Right, so if my dad had got on that helicopter, Special Force wouldn't be a thing, but anyway, he went to prison. That's me, top right corner, Daddy's little girl, up there. And so Tristan was like, I said, I really want it to be something to do with my dad, like a mark of respect. And Tristan said, what about Special Force? And I was like, oh my God, I love it. Because we all have a special force inside of us, right? Yeah. And we're a force to be reckoned with. And so that's where the name Special Force came from.
And also, music is a special force as well, right?
Yeah.
That is like serious. That has major power.
Yeah.
It can change the world.
Yeah.
And so that's how it came about.
And then Who Dares Wins is the SAS motto.
Right.
So we were like, Well, we're going to have our motto is who cares wins, right?
Yeah.
Because we do care, right? A lot about our artists and the promoters and the industry. And so, yeah, that's
it. It's got to be win-win, right?
It felt a win-win.
Yeah,
And it felt like we were almost, I don't want to like take credit for, but it felt like paving the way a little bit for a new way of doing things in the industry. Agents don't need to be controlling or, you know, a lot
or greedy,
or kind of like mean or whatever. I'm sorry, I'm not saying all agents are, but I have encountered, you know, agents at times when it's just a more thoughtful way of doing things, thinking about everyone here, you know, and yeah, so that's
and
how
also
we started to work.
like just the word integrity is a major sort of beacon for us, isn't it? You know, it has to have that integrity involved in it, and that goes into preserving the artist's integrity as well, more than everything as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that leads me into nicely, like when the girls joined us, like Rishi, big up Rishi, incredible artist as well, love you Rish, and Georgia, it was like, I was getting these really low offers from like, I'm talking like the biggest clubs in the country, you know, they're like, 350 all in, and I was replying, I'm like, the days of paying 350 all in for Georgia are over. You know? Georgia or Rishi, both. Rishi has earned her stripes, you know, she's consistently smashing it wherever she plays. And I go back and say, can we get an offer that's fair and square and respectful to the artist, you know? And they come back with a bigger offer. And I'd be like, and that's right, and then we're setting the precedent of your value, you know. And I love having the girls' backs like that.
There was that one time as well where you went back and you were like, no, honey, no, sort of thing. And you explained it nicely to them, and they came back and they were like, you know what? You're right.
They went, you're absolutely right. And I was like,
thank you.
But it is all in the way that you deal with it and explain it, you know. And that again, that's them seeing it from our side. So again, that's a win-win. That's spreading the love through the industry, and I love that.
Exactly. So I suppose that's the past.
Yeah.
The present is, you know, we're sort of we're here now talking. We're cooking on gas, aren't we? Everything's going really well with the agency.
Yeah.
I've lost my TV screen again. We'll forget about that.
Should we talk about how we manifest?
Yeah, exactly. So going on to the whole talks become things was. I went to see Cybertron at the Cybertron at the Barbican, and I was literally just absolutely floored. I was blown away. I mean, I already was a fan of the music and stuff, but seeing it live, I'd seen Kraftwerk and stuff before, but Cybertron just was a bit, I don't know, it just spoke to me a lot more. It spoke to my booty more than anything, you know what I mean? And I was literally jaws to the floor at the Barbican. It was probably one of the best live concerts I've ever been to, and everybody was just on their feet. It was amazing. And with me and my Freakenstein alias, it's very much influenced by Juan and Parliament, Funkadelic, the whole sort of Detroit thing, black, funky, you know, sort of electronic music. So, you know, I was just thinking, like, how can I get myself like under Juan's nose? Like, you know, how can it happen? We had Jo, who was doing the logistics for Special Force, but she'd also done them for Cybertron for the show as well. So we were like, oh gosh, this could be a good insy, but it never happened. That idea fizzled. It wasn't meant to be.
It wasn't. I think we did feel like almost connected a little bit with Juan, because of the fact that Jamie and Joanne, tour management team, had done the tour management for not only the Barbican show, but I think the Louis Vuitton incredible Virgil Abloh, you know, 2020 was it? Autumn Winter Men's Catwalk show, which if you haven't seen it, watch it, go on, it's amazing. And Cybertron put the music to that, and so we felt we were already connected, and we were like, how are we going to connect with Juan? We'll write an email and we'll get Jamie and Jode to send it, but it just never happened. And then fast forward a couple of years.
Well, a couple of years to last summer.
Yeah.
Houghton Festival.
So we're backstage at Houghton.
We're backstage,
We're just walking through the back of Artist Liaison.
Artist Liaison, and this dark, shadowy, Darth Sidious style character starts like meandering loosely down this dark, bushy alleyway, and I was like, Atkins. And so obviously I had to go up and say, you know, my respects and just thank him for everything that he's contributed to my musical tree and obviously the world. And he was cool, you know, it was great. And then Jody walks past and he was like,
He's like, who are you? I'm like, I'm agent to some of the dopest DJs on the planet. He's like, I'm looking for a new agent. I think at that point we should introduce Juan and bring him up.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's it. I mean, look, like, let's talk about legends for a second. I mean, we use that word quite a lot, but I mean, how many people can actually say that they changed music forever and not just contributed, but just, you know, or were part of a movement, but they actually laid the foundations for it, you know, for a global culture. And there's not many of them, but Juan Atkins, he's one of them for sure. So it's early 80s Detroit, and a city shaped by soul, funk and industry and raw creative energy. And in the middle of it all is Juan Atkins, a young Juan Atkins. He's tuning into sci-fi radio shows, electrifying mojo, listening to Kraftwerk, experimenting with drum machines and dreaming up sounds no one's ever heard of before. And what comes out of that moment? A sound that will shape the next 40 years, techno music. So fast forward to now, 40 years later, techno is a global language and it's on every continent, and underground basements and massive festivals, and still pushing the boundaries now. So right here, right now, we get to hear from the man who started it all. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Juan Atkins.
Juan motherfucking Atkins, sorry.
Juan MF Atkins, yes.
Thank you so much.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
No hands in the house. The man. The big Juan, the big bang. Exactly.
Okay, yeah, I get to see everybody sitting behind me.
Yeah, right?
So, nice to see y'all.
Yeah, it's great. So, how does it feel, Juan, when anybody's calling you like the originator, the father, you know, how does it feel to you to have that kind of accolade, you know?
Well, it's a good feeling. I mean, I've been called worse.
Yeah.
So, it wasn't a bad thing to hear. I never dreamed, there was no blueprint or I never didn't see any of this coming. So it's definitely refreshing.
That's great. So, I mean, take us back to those early days in Detroit. You know, what was this kind of like the little spark that, you know, led you to creating something completely new? And was it amalgamation of like, you know, new synths, new technology? What was going on?
You know, I mean, I think that I had a calling. I mean, it's one of those kind of universal, like, you know, I've loved music ever since, you know, basically I've been in my mom's womb, you know, and, you know, she used to tell me that when she put on certain songs,
Yeah.
how I reacted, like in my stomach.
Yeah,
know?
right. Oh, amazing.
And yeah. You know, like certain things I did, or certain kicks or movements I made.
Wow.
With certain songs.
Yeah.
So I kind of like from birth.
The womb, basically.
Yeah.
Before birth.
Can you tell us what song made you move forward?
I mean, I was like, she was a real. I mean, I don't know, I can't for sure, but I know she was into Motown.
Yeah.
A lot, and I know that when I was around her when I was a baby, I can remember she had like Jimi Hendrix playing, The Doors, stuff like that.
Nice.
Green Eyed Lady.
Yeah.
You know, all of this stuff. So it's like a mixture of music that I kind of paid attention to.
It was kind of ingrained in your DNA straight away, wasn't it?
Yeah. And you know, I just, you know, as time went on, it just evolved and evolved. And my father bought me an electric guitar for my 10th birthday. And because they, you know, they all noticed how musically inclined that I was. So he bought me this guitar, which later on, one of the members of Parliament, Funker Gary Scheider, offered to buy that guitar from me.
Really?
Yeah,
You wanted a piece of history right there.
I didn't sell it.
No. Have you still got it?
No, I don't got it. I don't have it. No.
Oh, damn. You should have sold it.
I know, right? But it was amazing because it was a Swingerland guitar that went, the amplifier was the guitar case.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. And,
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So you're good for busking as well, right?
Yeah.
How did that feel though, having like one of your inspirations like asking to buy your guitar off you, like?
I mean, yeah, because Funkadelic, like
It's-
basically
yeah.
was
They
one
were
of
the
my
shit.
main
Yeah.
icons. To me, one of my main
Yeah.
influences. So it was an honor to. He actually came to my studio
Wow.
on Grand River, and he came up because he knew some other guy. The drummer, one of the drummers, lived in the building.
Uh-huh.
So this day, let's meet Juan, and then vice versa. And yeah, man, he saw that guitar, and I guess it brought memories back
Right.
to him, and he
Yeah,
picked
yeah.
it up and
Yeah. started
started running some riffs. And he offered me, I think, like $500 or something for it. And I'm like,
Wow.
Man, But
So
anyway.
yeah.
yeah. So my dad bought me this guitar, and and then also, I have a younger brother that's like 10 months younger than me, like that, and what I would do was like for Christmas, you get gifts, and I would talk him into getting like drum sets.
They were compliments, whatever you got.
that
You
would
needed.
go
Yeah.
along with what I was doing.
Yeah, right.
And so I played an array of instruments, compliments to my brother
Yeah.
at home. So and everything just sort of kind of like evolved,
Right.
from there. And eventually, when I got like into high school or into my first year in college, I just that's where I met Rick Davis. My first year, I went to community college, and Rick Davis was one of those guys. Like sometimes I don't know if any of you have this experience, but people that come across that you are meant to come across in life have this aura around them.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're in a haze,
Yeah.
like they came from out of nowhere, like through a cloud of smoke or something.
A bit like Jody did.
Yeah,
Right.
we're gonna get to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so Rick Davis was one of these guys. Also, Derek was one of these guys that I met in junior high school. When I first saw him, he had this thing around him.
That's Derek, mate.
Also, my wife had this thing around her when I met her. High school sweetheart.
That was a lovely story, though.
Yeah. And so it's like all of these different people. Anyway, long story short.
Yeah.
So I met Rick Davis, and this was at the time when synthesizers were just kind of like affordable synths. Like I think the Mini Moog had just been released. The Korg MS-10 had just been released. And then all of these synths became affordable to, young upstarts.
Well,
like
they were
myself.
still quite expensive, though, weren't they, in a way? But they were more affordable than these
Yeah,
huge.
because
synths,
before that, the only people that had synths was like Stevie Wonder.
Right, exactly. Superstars. Yeah.
More Bernie Worrell from
Right, yeah.
E-Funk.
Yeah.
So my grandmom rather had this Hammond B3 organ in the house, and every time, like when I was come home from school, first grade, second grade, I would mess around and hammer on this organ.
Nice.
And she would take me to the music store called Grinnell's, and she would take me along, and she was like buying sheet music and different attachments for this organ, right? And so I would go in the back room where they were like rolling out these new synths, while she was up front doing her business for the organ, buying sheet music.
Yeah.
And so one day, eventually I talked her into saying, Grandma, here, come take a look at what I've been checking out back there.
Yeah.
And it was a Korg MS-10.
Right.
And she surprised me. It was like, I think it was either my birthday or Christmas came past, and she bought it for me.
Can we just have a shout out to Grandma Juan Atkins, please? Right? Look, we wouldn't have techno if it wasn't for that woman. Right?
Exactly.
Right?
For real. For real, man. For real. And I mean, the thing about it, and she she used to kind of like, I mean, in a way, I mean, she wanted to encourage my music, but sometimes it was like I'd be hammering away on that synth at like 3 o'clock in the morning. She would have to come out and say, "Hey, man, I'm trying to get some sleep. Turn that damn thing on."
Yeah.
But
she's only human.
But yeah, well, yeah. But that only made me like want to do her more. And so eventually, you know, I'm in community college. I'm in first year in this community college. So I come across this guy, Rick Davis, who basically is an ex-Vietnam vet, right? And so he was well into Jimmy. I always called Rick the Jimi Hendrix of synth,
right?
And because he was playing an art odyssey and he knew how to do the. I mean, if you hear, I mean, you listen to like Cosmic Rain Dance and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, all of that. You know, you can hear that influence.
He's riffing on that.
Yeah. That Eastern.
Yeah.
Vietnam.
Yeah, the scales that they use over there.
Yeah. Because they used to play, but then when they come down in a helicopter, they was playing blasting Hendrix.
Really? Yeah.
Off the helicopter.
Yeah, right.
So I guess it did something to the
to the locals.
To the enemy or whatever.
Right, exactly.
Kind of threw them off their square.
Right.
But so he was heavily influenced by that, and so we got together. It's kind of another story, but you know, he was kind of reclusive, and I guess something. One day, I had been making these demos on this chord, MS-10, and I had learned how to shape white noise and pink noise to make drum kits, and things out of it. So I was like at home because I lived in Belleville at the time.
Yeah.
And the next person that played any instruments was like 10 miles away.
Right.
So I had to learn how to like do my own.
And there's no presets on that synth, is there?
No,
So you have to
this is
literally
like you cut it off and you cut it back on. It's a whole different.
It's gone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So you know, you would kind of either have to take a picture of the knobs.
Yeah.
Or
you record it there and then. Yeah.
Record. Yeah. Well. Yeah. Basically. I mean, I had got good at knowing what settings.
Yeah.
What sounds.
Yeah.
And where to set the knobs.
Right.
So you know, it was kind of like second nature.
Amazing.
So I had to learn how to make my own like. Well, I don't have a drummer because when I was living in Detroit before I moved to Belleville, you know, we had a little garage band. And drummer was around the block, down the block, bass guitar player down the street. Mm-hmm. We get together and go in somebody's garage and jam.
Right.
And when I got to Belleville, it was nobody like within, you know, and I mean, by the time you arrange for somebody to get together and come and play,
you were the only Juan.
Yeah. So, you know, so I said, well. So I started making these demos. I was using for my drums. I was using an album called Drum Drops, which basically was an album of just rhythm tracks, live drum rhythm tracks. So I would put this on, and I was playing bass guitar. I was playing synth, playing guitar. All these things that I had taught my brother into getting. And so I had 2 cassette decks. I also taught Grandma into buying me these. And a little PA mixer. So I would bounce. I would put the drum tracks on and I would do an overdub and catch the recording on one of the decks.
Yeah.
And then I'd play that back and catch overdub.
Yeah.
And catch it on the other cassette deck.
Yeah.
And I would do this back and forth until at the end I had a
full piece.
Track,
yeah.
Full record, basically.
So a long process, but you got there.
I mean,
you got there.
And I had gotten.
You got good at it.
The reason why my recordings sound so clean to this day.
Yeah.
Because I mastered the art to tweak. Like when you get so many generations, it starts to muddle.
Yeah.
Especially with the bass.
Yeah.
So if you chord the drums and the bass guitar at first, and you take all of the basically out.
Yeah.
And by the time it gets to the end, it's
not going to be
equalized
muddy.
out.
Yeah, exactly. So you haven't got the bottom frequencies muddying up the thing.
So man, I became a pro at that,
early,
right?
Yeah.
And so I took this demo to Washington Community College, which was where I met Rick Davis. And it was like only about like 10 students in this class. It was like a music theory class.
Right.
And everybody was blown away by this demo. And you know.
What kind of stuff then? Was it electronic? Was it like similar to your early productions then, or was it just like a different style?
It was basically the precursor to
techno.
To my early tracks, like
Yeah.
Alleys in Your Mind.
Yeah, right, okay.
Cosmic Car
Yeah,
and stuff
okay.
like that. I mean, it was basically, man, I lost those tapes.
Oh shit! They're museum pieces, right?
Man,
Seriously.
I lost those tapes because you move a couple of times.
Of course, these things don't
You know,
last.
the parents, they don't care about your shit. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm in my mind. I'm thinking about like some excavation in the future. The archaeology's going on, and somebody finds these tapes, the early first Juan Atkins tapes. I mean, that is some real gold dust there, isn't it? I mean,
There's a TV program in that.
Fuck Tutankhamun.
I mean, there might
Right,
be somewhere actually somebody. But anyway.
So anyway, so you met Rick.
So I'll take this tape into the class, and I play. Everybody's comparing like what they do when they not in class.
Yeah.
And everybody was blown away, and Rick finally, because Rick was very he was kind of pompous in a way, and kind of like he didn't want to jam. This is the time when you just get together with somebody and jam. But Rick didn't want to jam with anybody because he had experience with different musicians where they don't show up on time, or this musician have to go have a date with their girlfriend and he can't make it this day. So he was kind of put off by that. But when he heard that demo, he said, "Hey man, would you like to come by and jam?"
You're like, oh, now you want to know.
Right. But Rick was like, I mean, he really taught me a lot actually, and and a lot of times I have to give him a lot of props for kind of mentoring me in a way, because I mean this guy had ARP Axe, he had IRS-09 strings, he had a sequence, the MSQ 700 sequencer.
Nice.
Which was called a rhythm composer. This is the same sequencer that Giorgio Moroder used for like the Donna Summer productions. When I read the back of Giorgio Moroder, the Energy Equals MC Squared album, and it credits the MSQ rhythm composer. It's like I'm thinking this is like a processor, like a computer processor and I actually took a computer processing class in high school thinking
that that's what it was.
going to teach me about this MSQ, but it wound up just being a sequencer.
And you had it there at your fingertips.
Yeah. So anyway, so I took up Rick's offer to come by, jam with him. I had my little cord in my shoulder, and I put it. Man, I walked. He was living in a 2-bedroom flat on Eastern Michigan University campus, right? So I went in there, and I think that he was, Rick expert at like playing kind of mind games on you or whatever. So he had the room all set up. It was black dark, and all I could see was the LEDs coming off all these synths and things like this, right? And I thought I was like walking into another dimension or like into a spaceship. Yeah. When I went in there, and we got together and just did some jams. And I think the first thing that we did, we cut the sequencer on and just ran a riff, and it was Cosmic Rain Dance. That was the first track we ever made together, which later on became the B-side of the first release. But which was Alleys of Your Mind, by the way. We formed a group. We got together and we made up this name, Cybertron.
Cybertron, yeah. I mean, what an amazing name, and you know, I think
It's a combination of a cyclotron and cyborg.
Cyborg, right?
Which
what's a cyclotron?
Cyclotron is a particle accelerator.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah, and
So
a
you
cyborg.
were
You know
into-
what a cyborg?
Yeah. So you were heavily into science and science
Yeah,
fiction
yeah.
then as well, obviously.
Yeah, yeah.
That thing, the whole thing. So how much of what you were doing was like experimentation versus like sort of clear vision of what you wanted to?
It was never a clear vision.
No.
It was always,
That's good to know for everybody
That's
out
really good
there
to know,
who's
actually.
just fudging it and just trying out things. You know what I mean? It's like you never know what you're going to stumble on.
it was just the flow, man. I mean, it's just sometimes you got, you know, it's an art
Yeah.
to letting go and letting the universe take you where you're supposed to go.
Yeah, sure.
You know, and that was basically it. It was something about we put it together, and we didn't try to control it or try to,
Yeah.
you know, it was just, you know, and a lot of times you get, when you, I don't know how many people know, like, produce or make music. Sometimes a track is, by the time, when you start a track, by the time you finish, it's totally
Completely different.
Totally different.
Yeah. There's
I'm
also,
probably sure you know about.
yeah, of course, yeah. I mean, there's also like, you know,
what
when
you
the,
started as, you know.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, when all the machines are hooked up and synced together as well, they
Yeah.
all start talking to each other, don't they, as well? And
Yeah,
that's when the magic
exactly,
starts to
exactly.
happen, right?
And sometimes mistakes
Yeah, happy accidents.
are the
Happy accidents,
Right.
exactly. Sometimes that's, you know, where, you know, the magic really happens, you know.
Mm.
So let's just play a quick track just to break it with a little bit of music. I think I want to play Clear because it's one of my favorite all-time tracks here. So let me.
1, 2.
That's great right there, buddy.
Is it? Right.
Oh, this is the original.
Yeah. So this is one of the earliest versions, is it? Yeah, the
Yeah.
original. Yeah.
That wasn't sampled, so
That was an arpeggiator. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So I want to just touch on that actually as well. Sorry, let's turn it down a little bit here. But how did it feel when Timbaland sampled it for Missy Elliott? Because obviously he sampled it for Lose Control.
and I mean it's a bittersweet. You know, I mean it's an ultimate form of flattery in a way, but it's like on the other hand, it's like damn, they ripped my shit off.
I mean, they clean ripped it off. Like they didn't
I
even.
mean, man, they just put the needle to the record.
Right.
Like,
Well, I mean,
over top of it.
yeah.
I
mean,
love
yeah.
that Incredible Riff is an original
Yeah.
beats. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, I suppose, you know, Dr. Dre in the early days was sort of mimicking you with the JJ Fad stuff
Yeah.
as well, wasn't he?
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
you also,
yeah, yeah.
and then you had, you know, obviously you've got Timbaland, who's obviously like an absolute
Oh yeah, man, definitely. Dr. Dre.
maestro. You know what I mean?
Dre owed me a couple of favors.
Right? Exactly. You know what I mean? Yeah, but I mean,
Because we never went after them for that.
really? So they got away with
No,
that?
so I just said, like, well, no, that's all right. You know, I don't know. Maybe I saw something. I said, he'll owe me a favor.
Yeah, right.
So I'll leave the marker
And
out
it's
there.
Dre, maybe anyone else.
Yeah,
You'd have been
yeah.
like,
I think that's yeah. I mean, I think with Timbaland that's quite a big favour. I think it's kind of like more like a six-figure favour. That one, to be fair, mate. But yeah, you know. But no, it's good.
Well, you know, they did the right thing.
Yeah.
They actually cleared the sample.
Yeah.
You know, so.
So you did see some royalties for it then?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, there we go.
We'll let
That's
them
all
off.
right. We'll let them
We're
off.
letting you off.
Yeah, I mean they did, but
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
Dre tried to, you know, I haven't talked with them yet.
Well, Dre was early days, though, wasn't it? It was
Yeah,
way back
yeah,
before
back
that kind. Everybody was ripping everybody off,
yeah,
weren't they? In the
yeah,
80s and
yeah.
stuff. You know, that was the kind of nature of the game back then. So.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, obviously we're talking about Cybertron now, which leads us right on to like 40 years later. You're dropping the new album, which is super exciting for everybody, and it's going to obviously involve more live shows and more amazing Barbican sort of style shows and stuff, which I can't wait for. Can you tell us a bit about why now was the time to do that?
Well, Where do I start?
Just go with the flow.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's nice is when you first heard Tristan Maintain and Parallel Shift, you were like, it's like Cybertron never went away.
It really
and
was.
I love that.
Yeah,
I just love
it
that.
was just like as good, if not even better, a bit more even refined, and sort of so now, but so futuristic as well. You know.
I have to go back. Let me go back.
Go.
Go back.
Step into the time
Take it
machine.
back.
The reason why we kind of split in the first place is because, you know, Rick, very creative, very, you know, enlightened person. However, as the leader of the band, he was a little bit overbearing in terms of like creative choices, and like a lot of the tracks that were getting traction was the stuff that I was bringing to the table. Like when you take a track, you take Clear. I mean, that's my whole production.
Right.
Basically, I mean, he put a line on top and did some vocals. He wrote a lot of the lyrics.
Yeah.
But basically, that was my shit.
Yeah.
And so he I guess in a way he would put forth stuff that let's like take Techno City for instance.
Yeah.
Excellent title, brilliant title.
Yeah.
But the track was kind of a little bit off where we had established with Clear.
Yeah.
And Cosmic Cars.
Yeah.
Clear and what have you.
Uh-huh.
I had Night Drive was in the can.
Yeah.
And I'm like pushing for Night Drive to be the next release instead of Techno City.
Uh-huh.
Great title
Yeah.
again, but you know, Night Drive was
Shit.
Yeah. It was like that was an obvious Clear follow up.
Yeah.
And it didn't.
Was he cop blocking?
I got vetoed. It got vetoed.
Yeah.
Right. And so I said, you know what? I'm gonna take this and start and put it on my own.
Right. Exactly. Why not?
And, yeah.
Yeah.
And because it was too.
Yeah.
It was.
You believed in it so much it had to see the light of day. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, I mean, there's a lot of decisions that he was making that wasn't really conducive for success.
Yeah.
I guess you could say.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it's like decisions not to. When Clear was right, Clear was like in the top 40 on the charts.
Yeah.
It was rising, and Fantasy wanted to.
Which is the
postpone.
label. That's the label that signed it, right?
Yeah. They wanted to postpone the extension because this stuff takes time.
Yeah.
And there was an album option coming up. The next album option coming up. They said, well, can we extend this option for 6 months?
Yeah.
To allow us to use that money that we're gonna instead.
Yeah.
To keep pushing this record.
Keep the momentum going.
Yeah. And Rick said no.
Right.
And that was another thing I said.
Yeah.
And for certain reasons, which I found out later, sometimes people are, I don't want to say scared of success, but
they can get in the way of themselves, can't they? Yeah.
Yeah. And so anyway, we're gonna leave it right there.
So that's basically why Cybertron didn't really
really at that point.
Yeah. And that's why it kind of just sort of fizzled.
Yeah.
And then coming to now,
because I left, man. I did Night Drive and
Yeah.
everything I did on Metroplex.
Yeah.
Basically should have been Cybertron.
Right. Well, you can feel the thread in it as well. You can feel that and hear
Yeah.
that in it. But now, there's a new album on the horizon
coming back on track.
Forthcoming on.
Segued away.
Yeah, forthcoming on Trésor, which is amazing. Obviously, you've had a long-term relationship with the with the German Berlin label, and they're going to be putting it out for you, which is great. They've done a great job with the singles so far. So you obviously did the old stuff.
Yeah, because everybody, I mean, people kept, you know, it was like, people kept coming back and saying, well, you know, they wanted Cybertron.
Yeah.
And so I got there's a lighting and visuals company called Pilot that was doing work with some big artists. But, you know, these guys kind of grew up listening to Cybertron, and what I guess one of their dreams was to do visuals for Cybertron.
Wow.
So they came to me and said, look, man, we want to do visuals, but, you know, for Cybertron, but, you know, we need some new stuff.
I love it.
So, yeah.
So,
who are you to stand in the way of their dreams, you know?
Yeah.
So.
So I went and I said, okay. And I went ahead and kind of relaunched and geared it back up. And, you know, of course, with the blessings of Rick, I wouldn't have, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, even although he did a couple of Cybertron albums on his own.
Yeah, I'm not going to say much about those.
But you know, that's not something that I wanted to do. So, you know, I said, well, look, man, you know, I want to do some Cybertron. Look, you can do it. If you don't want to do it, let me do it.
Right.
Well,
exactly.
you know. So he said, go ahead, do what you want to do.
Good. It's back in the right hands now, which I'm very pleased about, and you know, it's obviously you know, exciting for everybody knowing that that's on the horizon. Have you been working with anybody else on this album then? You know, has it just been Juan on his
album? I've been working with you know, the nephew of Moritz van Oswald.
Lawrence, yes.
Yeah, Lawrence van Oswald. Is you know, a lot of, when I was recording, I also have an entity called Model 500, by the way.
Yeah.
And one of my first album, I recorded most of that in Berlin.
Okay. Yeah.
In Moritz studio. At the time, Moritz actually engineered a lot of the stuff on the Deep Space album.
Yeah.
And Mind and Body album, Model 500. So I was kind of used to, you know, I mean, some of my most creative solo works came
during that period.
During that time.
Yeah, amazing.
What they were calling Love Park Studio,
which
was Moritz Studio, because they had learned how to MIDI.
Yeah.
They would come to Detroit and buy up all these old synths.
Yeah.
Take them back to Germany and retrofit them with MIDI.
Yeah.
And so it was a place to go where like you know, the old because at the time you know, you couldn't sync a Roland.
Yeah.
808.
Yeah. There was no MIDI to it.
With the core sequence, you know.
Exactly.
You know. So you know, at their studio you could play all these different things with this kind of retrofit MIDI thing that they had, you know, developed. And so when I started to do this new Cybertron stuff, it was kind of a natural fit for me to do it there. And even then, back then, was doing like Borderland with Moritz, where Lawrence was engineering.
Right.
You know, so it was like I was used to that creative setting.
Nice.
So Lawrence is one of the main contributors.
That's nice.
To the new Cybertron stuff.
That's great. It's really exciting. So what's your thoughts on sort of where, you know, the sort of the techno is at these days and stuff? Because obviously you've seen it come from, you know, where it is in Detroit when you what's your view on the scene sort of now? Techno is global, it's massive, it's huge business, it's massive. Like, what's your thoughts on where it's at now?
Well, you know, depending on what country you're in, techno means something different.
Yeah.
You know, and that's one of the iterations that I've seen. That's kind of crazy, and but I mean, I'm just taking it all in, and making the best out of it. You know, I mean, I think it's a good thing. You know, I never envisioned. I mean, although you know, you do an experiment and you set it out there and you expect a certain result, but sometimes the result comes back 10 times better than you thought it was going to come back.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the way I see it.
Amazing. That's great. I love that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So we were talking earlier as well over dinner, which was really interesting. We had a really nice chats about all kinds of things. But one of the things was we were talking about sort of, you know, how industry is now, the industrial revolution, now it's a technological revolution happening. Where do you stand with all things like, you know, AI and stuff like that, with like, you know, obviously your themes with, you know, your sci-fi sort of, you know, electronic music and stuff was built
you know
on this
what?
kind of future.
I look at AI the same way I looked at technology and music.
Yeah.
Because what technology and music allow a lot of people that shouldn't be making music
Democratize
to make
it.
music.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at AI the same way.
Right.
You know.
So is that a good thing or a bad thing though for you?
Well, I mean, it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, right. Okay. Cool. I see it like that as well.
Yeah.
Obviously.
I mean, it's a double-edged sword, and at the end of the day, the sweet kind of outweighs the sour.
Yeah.
Although you gotta kind of take it, you gotta deal with it. But I think the advantages outweigh the disadvantages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
That's good.
I mean, like, yeah, we just like we could talk all night, really, couldn't we?
We should throw some questions out.
No, I wanted to ask a couple more questions, just quickly, just quick ones though. But I mean, I suppose I'll just ask one last one, and I just wanted to, like, what would be like if you could give one piece of advice to, you know, young producers and DJs out there now, you know, coming from your perspective, what would that be? You know, just to add a little bit of inspiration or something to people out there, you know, what would
Don't be afraid to take chances.
Right.
You know, I think you know, there's nothing that's going to move forward if you just recreating what the person did before. You know, if you just copying, cut and pasting or whatever, you know, what's already been done. You know, don't be afraid. You know, because it took a lot of courage.
Yeah.
What people tell me, like when we release Alleys of Your Mind, I've heard a lot of people, man, it took a lot of courage to release that record at that time.
Yeah.
But it was just.
Why was that? Was that because there was nothing else out there
People
like
not-
it?
yeah.
People not feeling it?
It was
Like,
yeah.
it's
It
not
was
clear.
totally like taking a chance.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't a conventional track. I mean, it was a totally electronic.
Yeah.
And it was like at the time, it wasn't your normal funk or disco record.
No.
You know.
It was something completely different. So
Yeah.
the moral is don't be afraid.
Don't be afraid to take
chance.
chances.
Yeah. Well, you heard it there.
That's the only way creativity is going to move forward, with people taking chances.
Well, that's exactly what happened when you know, you were fiddling around on your keyboards and synthesizers and stuff.
Yeah.
You took that chance, and we sat here now looking back on a whole legacy there, aren't we now? So, but I mean, like I said, we could talk all night. But I mean, should we get a few questions from the audience? Is anybody out there want to ask something? Yes, go on, go shout out.
Was Kendrick Lamar taking a chance in the way you're talking about?
Kendrick Lamar? Why are we talking about Kendrick Lamar?
I'm just saying, is he the evolution of what you're talking about, taking a chance? Or not? Is he completely established?
Well, I would say, I mean, I do like Kendrick Lamar, by the way. I don't know that what he's doing is so different. It's good, but I don't think he's breaking any ground, really.
Great. Thank
Really?
you.
Right?
That answers my question.
Okay.
We've got another question over here, this gentleman.
Yeah. You were very fondly speaking about your time in Berlin with the 3MBs and the 1500 stuff.
Uh-huh.
I wondered if you could maybe, if you remember when you made Jazz as the Teacher, which is my personal favorite of your solo work.
Yeah, I remember.
Please, any
I c-
sweet anecdote of that, I would
Oh.
really appreciate.
I tell the thing about when I was recording with going into what Moritz was calling Love Park Studio, which was his studio, and he was basically engineering. I would fly into Berlin, and then sometimes I would leave the airport and go straight to the studio. You know, I wouldn't even check into the hotel. I'd have all of my bags, and I'd just go. The car would take me straight to the studio. And this was one of the times where I left the airport and went straight there to do work. And sometimes Moritz would have some lines or something already rolling. And this was like one of them things where he had this, I think he had this bass line already rolling. And I just came in and started adding parts to it. And it eventually became Jazz as the Teacher. I mean, because we both were like, you know, I grew up, my father was like, I grew up listening to jazz music. And there was a lot of jazz influence that he had in his music. So somehow, as we progressed the track, it was like it had some jazz overtones to it. So we just decided to call it Jazz as the Teacher. Yeah.
Well, they say techno is jazz, right? Anyway, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah, I mean,
all
I
jazz.
think because it's mostly instrumental, and like most of the jazz that I grew up was mostly instrumental, you know. So that's where I think the two kind of coexist, you know.
Amazing. Anybody else got a little question for the man? Go on, Tom.
What do you think the future holds for this type of scene, for techno, electronic music, the evolution over the next 5 years for artists and festivals?
Well, sometimes the beauty of what I do is not knowing what the hell I'm doing.
Yes, amen to that.
So I would, instead of trying, because it's things that ain't really fun when you know what's gonna happen, right? What's the fun in that, right? So, sometimes I just, I can't wait and see myself. I mean, I know that there's things that I will try based on things that weren't here yesterday. It's like a new toy. You know how it is when you get a new toy.
Yeah.
Right. But I don't know. I can't predict or tell you what the result.
Sounds like it's going to be good, though.
Oh, yeah. I think so. I think if you're involved, we've got really safe hands
Well,
anyway.
I'm going to always push the envelope.
Yeah.
But, where it goes, I have no idea. I mean, I can kind of maybe guess, like if I add some pink noise to some white noise and tweak it at a certain frequency, I could kind of guess where it's going to go.
It's going to propel us out of the stratosphere,
Yeah.
by the sounds of it.
Are you sort of like really keeping like right up to date with all the new technology though as well? Like, are you like sort of still like obsessed with what's coming out, what's doing, the new machines, the new?
I try to keep
Yeah.
up. This shit is moving so fast
Right.
and furious though.
Yeah.
It's like it's kind of hard to keep
Yeah,
up.
it is.
I mean, if you're not, I mean, you almost have to sacrifice everything else,
Yeah.
relationships and everything else, to stay on top of these upgrades and updates.
Updates. You need an update.
Don't worry, we can't fit another synthesizer in
what
the
I mean?
house.
So
right?
you gotta kind of navigate it. So, but
Yeah.
to answer the question, yes, I do keep
Good,
up.
good. Okay, who else?
I
is
had
next
another
up?
question.
Oh yeah, go on, love.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Just interested to to know what's your setup now, kind of off the back of what you're
Oh,
doing.
I love a nerdy question. Go on, love.
Question.
Like,
What
is
my
it
setup
similar
is?
My
to
mind.
What you were using? Have you changed a lot?
Well,
of
okay,
machines?
I'll tell you what. Now, lately, virtual stuff is like, it's sometimes, you can't ignore it. You know, you can be a purist and say, oh, I'm going to only use a hard 808. I ain't going to use a... Man, this stuff is like, this virtual stuff is so, it's like,
You can't
gotta
really tell the
kind of
difference
like,
now, yeah.
you do this, and you do this, and then you do this, and then eventually you stop like this. So, you know, to answer that, I use I think, and then also, you know, it's like when I started, you know, everything was like analog and patch cables, and you had to wire. Man, it's like it's so a drag when you hook up something and it don't work, and you spend like an hour trying to figure out, and it just turns out that it's a bad cable, bad MIDI cable or audio cable, bad. I mean, you lost your whole inspiration.
You lost the
after
flow.
you figure out that it was just a cable, you know. And it's like with the virtual stuff, it's like everything is hardwired within there, and it's like you don't have to worry about that part of it. And you can and I've always had my best productions when I worked with an engineer, because they worried about the patches,
You can let it
and
flow.
stuff, and connections and stuff. So you know, so now working with virtual stuff takes that element out of it.
Is it
That
like a
margin
combination?
of error, huh?
Is it like a combination of virtual and you use it on machines as well?
Well, you know, I mean, it's like there's a plug-in for everything
There is,
now,
yeah.
and even things that you couldn't even imagine. So,
Or things you
it's
couldn't even
kind of
afford.
like you know, it's kind of like the old stuff is just there, like as a museum. You know, it's just kind of like, and actually, we just did our last Model 500 with using. It's great using that stuff live, 'cause, I mean, you know, it doesn't really. I mean, for the look, it's cool live. You know, 'cause you know, just standing up there behind a laptop, that's not all.
It's not very sexy, is it?
You know.
Thank you.
All right.
Good question. Okay, is that it now? I think we've come to the end of the chat. Oh, Joe's got a question.
Joe's got a question.
Tell us about what DJ shows you're doing next week.
That's
Yes,
a
Joe.
very good
Yes,
question,
Joe.
Joe.
Well, the one that's on the top of my radar right now is just this alien communication.
Yes. Sick lineup.
What was that, a couple of
Incredible
days from
show.
now?
Yeah, it is. It's in a
March
couple of
1st?
days. It's on the 1st of March at Earth in Hackney. And yeah, it's a really sick lineup and exactly the kind of party we want Juan to be playing. And it's
Yeah.
exciting because you're going to do a set of your own productions as well. So yeah. That's the place to be.
That's
All
very
roads
juicy.
lead to Earth in Hackney on Saturday.
Yeah.
Basically.
Anything beyond that don't come to mind.
Yeah. There might be something, you know.
Yeah, there might be a little something, but we won't say much about that.
No,
If
you'll know
you,
more.
if you dig hard enough, you'll find out. But there's
Yeah.
exactly.
But Alien Communications is a place to be, certainly. Yeah.
So I think that leaves us with just saying a huge thank you to Juan, not only for being here, but for just being him.
Oh, definitely.
And just like being so inspiring and so lovely and genuine and cosmic and just real. And you know, it's been a pleasure welcoming you onto the agency, onto having you on the Special Force, because you certainly are the Special Force.
You really are incredible, and I just want to
Well,
say
hey.
that encounter that we had backstage
Oh,
at Houghton,
right.
I thank the universe for that, because
Yeah, we got to cut back.
I really love what you said. It was like you kind of said when we had our first
It's,
Zoom.
you know, I don't know. It's a perfect example of the universal flow.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's an art to letting go and like just flowing with the universe. Basically,
Yeah.
certain things there's no real coincidence to anything. And so at this Halton Festival, was it last year?
Last summer, yeah.
And we did a Model 5. I did a Model 500 live there, and the agent that booked me there this was the first experience with a live electronic music band. That, you know, they were booking me for DJ gigs, but this is the first time they booked me as a live band. And needless to say, it was kind of a fiasco. And so after, I mean, although, you know, in the end, we was able to pull the show off. And,
Yeah.
But all the logistics and everything and all of the negotiation was just, it was totally upside down. So I'm kind of like, we're leaving the grounds, leaving the stage. And you know how you have to get on the transport. There's a lot of these festivals kind of out in the middle of nowhere. So you get on the transport and then you get back to the production point, then back to the hotel. So as I'm kind of like lagging behind, I don't know what it is that's telling me not to be in a hurry to leave. And so as I'm getting to the pickup point, the transport pulls up and these guys get off. And this is like, she just told you the story about how we met.
Yeah.
And it was just like another thing. I saw this aura around Jody.
I love that. Not gonna
And
lie.
I don't know, it was just like
Beautiful,
something that
lovely.
was meant to happen. You know?
I
And
felt
it was-
that energy too.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's what
it
was
was
so-
like, so she had this positive vibe emanating from her. I couldn't resist. Right. And it was like, wait a minute, it was just, I already knew that this is somebody I'm going to work with before I even met her.
And what's so lovely is the communication between us.
Yeah.
I can just be myself with Juan, and I
Yeah.
love that, and it works, you know, and that's,
Yeah.
we have a really nice communication. Also, I loved when you said to me, you know, that was cosmic. That encounter was cosmic.
Yeah.
And I want to say it's a real honor to represent you.
Yeah.
And yeah, so.
Yeah, because I think I was moving so slow. that I think even like some of my people
Your entourage.
had made the transport before that.
Yeah.
You did say it
So
was
I had
very
to-
rare for you to
Yeah,
have no one
yeah.
around you. And you look like you were at Star Wars. He honestly, I was like, you look like you're in Star Wars. He was like,
Straight
"Look at
Darth
you."
Sidious.
You know, like this.
Exactly.
And yeah, so
Yeah.
thank you, Universal.
Yeah, so I think we're just, I mean, that's a great way to end, and you know, I just want to, of course I've said thank you already, but I want to say a big thank you to Soho House for having us here,
Yes.
for giving us this platform, for giving us this opportunity to give this series of talks.
Yeah.
We hope we'll see some of you again come to our future talks as well. We're doing one every 2 months,
We are.
so stay tuned. But I just want to say a big thank you to everybody that made the effort to come down tonight. We really hope that you walked away with something like inspiring and some cool little anecdotes and something to hopefully
Yeah.
make you take a risk. And
I want to say thank you for having me
Yes.
here.
Pleasure.
Thank you
I mean,
so
it's
much.
like I
My
don't get a lot of chances to release,
yeah,
and this is definitely been one of those moments.
amazing. Thank you. So let's give it up for Juan Atkins. Okay, drinks in the bar. Thank you, everybody.